There we go.
Hey, everybody, I'm Candid Frank. He's Aaron William Freeland. And as does happen from time to time, technology just sort of kicks us in the teeth. And this would be one of those times. Well, Aaron, the Leafs can't even lose right. That's all I can say. But let's go to the first story. We'll talk more about the Leafs in a minute. Let's talk about it's Gudis, sorry.
Yes. Radko Gudas says that he feels terrible about the hit on the Maple Leafs' Austin Matthews. He was very repentant and contrite during an interview that he appeared on Sportsnet. He said, what did he say? Oh, yeah, here it is. We spoke and I never wanted to see anybody get hurt. I feel terrible about the outcome. I respect the league's decision. I didn't like the point of contact either. I have to learn. I have to be better as a hockey player. I never want to go out there and hurt anybody. It's very unfortunate. Now, Matthews underwent successful MCL surgery on his left knee last Thursday in New York, and they said that he'd be back on the ice in approximately 12 weeks. Matthews' season is done. Gudis is going to be able to return to the ice after this week. Now, this is the fifth suspension that Gudis has. His last one hasn't been since 2019, but as he says, I'm doing everything in my power to stay on the right side, to play hard, and be on the good side of it. I really hate the way that play ended up. But, and I'm thinking to myself, this guy has had a 14-year, at least, NHL career here. If you're going to be better at the hockey, as you claim you want to be, the best time to have done that would have been, while you just entered the league. You've been active since 2010. You played with the Tampa Bay Lightning starting in 2010. You've had 15 years to get better, buddy. So stop feeling bad and just be better. Because right now, dude, 16 years is too long to be sucking at hockey.
I call bullshit.
Yeah. Oh, no, he doesn't mean it at all. I have a very expert bullshit detector, mainly because I have a younger nephew. I know how this stuff works. I'm not a parent, obviously, but I can still figure some of this crap out. And this dude is so full of it, his eyes are brown.
Look, a leopard cannot change his spots. And by change his spots, I mean can't hide them. A wolf in sheep's clothing is always a wolf, regardless of the clothing they're wearing. You can't put lipstick on a pig. All these wonderful axioms come to mind when I think of him. No, this is a guy that we would forgive if he was on our team. At the end of the day, this is what sports is all about. Sports is all about. Well, I'm not okay. I shouldn't have said we. That's the only mistake I made.
Some of us might forgive him.
The only mistake I made was I said we, which was an inclusive everybody we. Most, I will say most. I think the same people that love fighting love the guy that fights for them. Is my simple point. If I were to draw a line under it, that is where the line would be drawn. So punching somebody in the face and knocking them out is okay when it's their guy. When it's our guy, we're not very happy about it. Regardless, anyway, I don't have any respect for this guy because he has accidentally done this repeatedly. So it's not something that he backed into this one time. That isn't what this is about. And he made a conscious effort to throw his knee out. He clearly changed his posture to ensure that his knee was the leading edge of contact. So he can BS all he wants. Never mind. Hopefully someday, maybe soon, the Leafs will get even with them, which is what they're looking for, I think, this month, right? They're going to play them one more time.
March 30th, they play the Ducks again.
So that's in a few days.
Look, I am as much as I enjoy seeing justice done. I don't think going after Radko Gudas at this point does anything. He hasn't learned a lesson. He won't learn a lesson. This is simply going to be, in his mind, reflected as the Maple Leafs being who they are. If they're going to do this, instead of doing something to him during the game when they had the opportunity to, because he was right there, they're going to wait while the Ducks are potentially ready to go into the playoffs and spoil their chances at winning the Stanley Cup.
They can do both. I disagree, and here's the reason I disagree, Aaron. In the absence of sticking up for a teammate, you end up creating an invitation. I mean, this is my opinion, and I'm not saying it's hard and fast a fact, but it is of my opinion that when it comes to standing up for a teammate, it's not really getting even for that one. It's for stopping the next one. Trust the league, but the way you verify is you make sure that anybody who thinks they can do something like that will have to run the gauntlet. Now, the downside is if you don't have anybody that could not necessarily pound that individual into submission, but give most other players on that team or in the league the impression that, there's about, how they say the saying about there are players that are really tough and they make everybody play a couple of inches taller. Well, you want to shrink those guys. That's all my point is. It's really that simple. It's not complicated.
You need a player to reduce the swelling.
Right. So at the end of the day, you need to stand up for yourselves so that the bully understands there may be a cost, depending on which bully, of course. But the tougher you are, the shorter the list of bullies that are willing to engage is all that we're talking about here. And that's why it has to happen. That's why I was talking about this when the Core 4 was at its peak or getting to be at its peak. This was my concern back then. It happened over and over again. I remember in a playoff that Austin Matthews was smiling while he was being thrown around like a ragamuffin. We all remember that because it was a very memorable moment. It's those kinds of things. And the other thing is that I believe is that also it sends a message to the league that you're going to start a fire if they don't put out the whatever it is that starts that fire. And that's why you have to stick up for your teammates. That's the kind of toughness you need, where there is a problem going to happen if people do that kind of stuff to your teammate. Let's go to the second period, and we'll talk about the Raptors.
So the Toronto Raptors actually set a new team record with 49 points scored in the third quarter. It was absolutely unbelievable.
Wow.
RJ Barrett had 27 points. Sandro Mamukelashvili had 23. Jacoby Walter had 21, and Scotty Barnes finished with 20, 10 assists and 7 rebounds. The Raptors are now 40-31. They managed to stop a 2-game losing skid. They remain half a game ahead of Atlanta for 5th place in the Eastern Conference. Now, the top 6 teams in the East are all assured a playoff berth, whether they need to qualify via play-in, so that's a good thing. Utah rookie Ace Bailey had 37 points, and Bryce Sensabaugh scored 24 off the bench for the Jazz, who are now 21-51 and have lost 6 of 7 and are officially eliminated from playoff contention.
Absolutely. Let's talk about the Jays and Vladi in particular.
So there are 2 different forms that Vladi can show up in come tomorrow, actually, Friday. The one is the best version of himself. The other is the slightly lesser version of himself. Neither of them are bad, understand me. But Guerrero actually displayed both sides of himself as a hitter just during the 2025 season alone. In the regular season, he had an OPS of 848. In the postseason, he had an OPS of 1.289. Now, he's obviously not going to hit a 1.289 over the course of an entire regular season, but we would hope that we would see that a little bit more than the 848. In 2024, he was a 940 OPS. In 2025, he was an 848. So that's obviously a bit of a difference. He's obviously at this point the face of the franchise. The Jays are just hoping that he comes in with the slightly better side of himself leading.
Absolutely. And good for him. Sorry, had to do some business while you were talking there.
No,
Let's talk about Springer.
So there are some people that have been wondering why George is no longer in the field. He's actually said because I think the Jays are going to be designated him full-time DH. They're also going to be getting him to lead off. To be clear, Springer can still slot into right and center field in a pinch. He's still got a glove, and it's just not necessarily the most positive play, the play with the most upside. He's going to be starting against Jesus Sanchez, Dalton Varsho, and Addison Barger. They're all, hate to say it, better fielders than George, but George was still a better hitter. So it's worth trying to keep him in the lineup, and the best way for the Jays to do that as he ages is to make sure he's a DH.
And he's a clutch hitter to boot.
Oh, 100%.
Let's go with the CFL, and let's talk about the Alouettes.
So the Alouettes have signed national offensive lineman Sage Dockstader. He actually played with the Argonauts last season, played in 11 games with them, starting at left guard. He had originally signed with the Argos in October of 2024, but finished the season on the practice roster. He was actually originally picked by the Argos in the second round of the 2021 CFL draft. He's actually First Nations from Thames, Ontario. Started 5 games at left tackle for the Houston Roughnecks in the XFL in 2023. And also played 48 games over 5 seasons with New Mexico State. So glad to see that he's picked up again. Sad that he's not with the Argos.
Let's stay with the CFL and move over to the Stamps.
So the Stamps re-signed Adrian Green, and this is a slightly longer deal that actually goes through 2028. He was previously under contract through the 2026 campaign. He's been one of the top corners in the league for a while now. Dave Dickinson is really happy to have him back. Glad to see him still in the league. Not so happy that he's still going to be tormenting my defense, but that's okay. All the best to him in the coming season. Looking forward to that very shortly.
Still with the CFL, let's talk about the Saskatchewan Grey Cup champion Riders.
Yeah, so they've signed Juju Hughes. He originally signed with the LA Rams as an undrafted free agent after the 2020 NFL draft. Played 26 regular season games, including 12 as a rookie with the Rams in 2020-21 and 7 with the Lions in 2022. He had 26 tackles, 2 for loss and 1 for a sack. And he attended training camp with the Cardinals in 2023 before going on to spend time with the UFL's Birmingham Stallions. He was an All-Mountain West second-team selection in 2018 and a conference honorable mention in 2016. His legal name is Juwane, but he goes by Juju for apparently it's easier to pronounce. So there you have it.
Not Jujubes.
No, Juju. Not Jujubes, no.
Juju is isn't that like witchcraft in isn't it in New Orleans?
Yeah, there's a little bit of the hoodoo and the voodoo going on there.
Voodoo or whatever, that's bad luck or something. All right, let's leave the field and get it to the ice, and let's talk about the ladies on the ice of PWHL. And there was a fine levy.
Yeah, there have actually been a few of them. The most recent one was a $500 fine to Rebecca Leslie for a boarding call. This is actually her second one so far this season. They are leaning a little bit into the rougher stuff. But this time around, it actually got Leslie a $500 fine instead of a $250 fine. Now it came at a review of the boarding penalty against the Montreal Victoire. She actually had managed to play a huge chunk of games without that. Now, what's actually going to happen is, and this is going to make things interesting, she's tied for the PWHL league with 12 goals this season, and she now leads the PWHL in suspensions. So suspensions and fines. So we'll have to see where this goes for her.
Let's talk about another fine. Still yet another to talk about.
Yeah. So the PWHL Player Safety Committee has suspended Peyton Anderson and fined Britta Curl-Salome, Maggie Flaherty, and Lauren Gable for actions in 2 separate PWHL games this week as well. They handed out the stiffest penalty to Anderson, who got a game suspension for an unpenalized illegal body check in a game against the New York Sirens. Curl-Salome was fined $250 for an unpenalized cross check from the same game. This is the fourth time in Carl Salome's 2-year PWHL career she's received supplementary discipline. Lauren Gable was fined $250 for other unpenalized actions following Flaherty's illegal hit in front of the Boston bench. She was assessed a major in a game misconduct for a hit against Boston's Jill Saulnier on Sunday. The league seems to be picking up in the physical department, which is nice to see. Love to see that. But unfortunately, some of these girls are probably going to end up, some of these ladies are going to end up paying for the season as opposed to being paid for the seasons the way that they're racking up fines.
In a PWHL prediction, we have somebody who may end up being the MVP goaltender.
Oh, this is one that's near and dear to my heart. Erin Frankel has recorded her league-leading 6th shutout of the season with the Boston Fleet. This has Boston sitting in 1st overall in the PWHL. She's currently riding back-to-back shutouts, beating Seattle and then beating Vancouver, all in about 2 days. So in 20 appearances this season for the Fleet, Frankel leads all PWHL goalies with a .952 save percentage and a 1.23 goals against average. This would be comparable to, but still better than, Scott Wedgwood, who has a 0.916 save percentage and a 2.19 goals against average. So this is one of those things where if it does go to a goalie, it should definitely go to her.
In tennis, the Maple Leaf is proudly being carried by Mboko. Tell us about the successes and the play of her in this tournament that's going on right now.
So Victoria managed to earn herself a 7-6, 4-6, 6-0 4th-round win over Mira Andreeva on Monday at the Miami Open Tennis Tournament. She was seeded 10th, had 6 aces to 7 double fault, and converted on just 1 of her 6 breaks point chances. But she actually managed to win it in the 2-hour and 17-minute match. She's going to be facing Czechia's Karolina Mukova in the quarterfinals coming up soon. So, this is one of those situations where she's continuing to get better as the season goes. As it currently stands, Oj Aliassime, unfortunately, got bounced. He was ousted by France's Terence Atman, 6-3, 1-6, 6-3.
Back to Mboko, the person she beat was her doubles partner.
Yeah, interestingly enough, after you get bounced from that side of the tournament, you can come back in again and play your partner.
There you go. Okay, let's talk about the National Hockey League on the ice, and we'll talk about Caulfield, who has now 44 goals. Really only 43 if you're paying attention.
So he got his 44th of the season, and Jacob Dobish had 41 saves as the Montreal Canadiens held off the Carolina Hurricanes for a 5-2 win last night. Yuri Slavkovsky and Ivan Demidov had a goal and an assist each, while Oliver Kapanen also scored as Montreal, who are now 39-21-10, erased a 2-goal deficit for their 2nd consecutive win. Jake Evans buried an empty netter with 1 minute left in regulation, and Caulfield added an assist for a 2-point night. Nikolai Ehlers and Jordan Stahl replied for Carolina, who lost for the first time in 4 games. Freddie had himself a good game. He stopped 14 shots, but, when you're facing 14 saves on 18 shots isn't necessarily going to cut it.
Talk to me about the Sens.
So the Sens handed a bit of a kink in the plans to the Red Wings. They lost 3-2. Yeah, they really did. But at the same time, it's interesting because they've lost a whole bunch of defensemen Ottawa has. So they're definitely playing shorthanded when it comes to this. But, Ehlers managed to stake them out to a 3-0 lead, and they managed to hold on. So congratulations to them on that.
Yeah, they went into that game with 2 of their top 4 defensemen out. Yep. And then they proceeded to lose 2 more in that game.
I don't know how they managed to do it, man. It's a mind boggler.
Good for them. Well, you and I both have felt that this is a team that should have gone somewhere maybe even before this year. They made it to the playoffs last year, and they gave the Leafs a pretty good fight. And keep in mind, the Leafs gave Florida, the eventual Stanley Cup champions, a really good fight. Took them to the complete set. The Sens beat the Wings, a team that they were trying to pass so they could make it into the playoffs. So they moved in finally. They made it all the way back to the wild card. Good for them. And I think they'll stick around in there unless this deficit on defense becomes a problem. But we don't know if it will. Let's talk about the Winnipeg Jets and Scheifele, who isn't a fighter. He fought in the game, and he had a goal and an assist. He had a Gordie Howe hat trick.
Yeah, he had a Gordie plus an assist. So he had a goal, 2 assists, and a fighting major in the second period. Kyle Connor, Alex Iafallo, and Cole Perfetti also scored for Winnipeg. They managed to snap a 5-game home skid against Vegas. Connor Hellebuyck made 26 saves to snap his 6-game winless streak against the Golden Knights. Colton Sissons had the lone goal on the power play for Vegas, and Aiden Hill only managed to stop 17 shots. Scheifele actually dropped the gloves with Brett Howden late in the second in just his 10th career fight in his 15th NHL season. He then capped the scoring for the Jets with his 32nd goal, an empty netter with $1.18 left.
The Oilers, with McDavid leading the way, won their game. And, it's amazing that somewhere between a point here and a point there could mean first in their division or out of the playoffs.
Honestly, these standings to me are so bizarre in the Western Division. They're currently sitting at second in the Pacific with 79 points, just ahead of the Vegas Golden Knights. But they're actually a point behind the first wild card team, the Utah Mammoth. Like, I don't even know what Gary's doing here, but McDavid got himself 2. He's got 401 career goals and 1,200 points. Sparked the Edmonton Oilers to a 5-2 win over the Utah Mammoth. He's actually the 5th player in Oilers history to reach 400. The go-ahead goal was his 39th, and that put Edmonton in front 3-2. And then his 401st was an empty netter with 7.5 seconds left. That also gave him his 1,200th point. Evan Bouchard had 3 assists to give him 82 points. And he joined Cale Makar. Oh, I got to tell you, that was a fantastic feed from Matthias Ekholm and Evan Bouchard. So happy for that.
Absolutely. Let's talk about the Knuckleheads.
Yeah, they managed to chalk another one up in the L column as the Anaheim Ducks held them off 5-3. Mikael Granlund had 2. Alex Killorn had a goal and an assist, and they managed to outlast them 5-3. Mason McTavish and Troy Terry also scored for the Ducks. John Carlson had 3 assists, and Lucas Dostal stopped 27 of the 30 shots that he faced. DeBrusk, Besser, and O'Connor each scored a goal for the Canucks, who are now 21, 40, and 8, while Philip Hronik and Elias Pettersson each contributed a pair of assists, and Lankinen had 29 saves. Long night for the Vancouver.
And then there was the into the boards, no game misconduct, pushing a guy in the boards who's already on the ice. Like, basically, he's if the definition of trying to hurt somebody who's helpless means anything when it comes to suspensions, it's a Bruin. It's a Bruin that can do that kind of stuff. He's taken the new mantle that Chara had, where Chara was able to do anything to anyone at any time and not ever be punished, and always came out with the phrase, the league would come out with the phrase, well, he's not that kind of player.
I gotta say, man, Zadorov is one of those players that really started to annoy me.
Very dirty player.
He leads the league in penalties for a reason, But the problem is he doesn't see anything after that, so he continues to play that way because he's 6 foot whatever.
Mm-hmm. 4, I think 6'4", 6'5".
Good to see Easton Cowan grab a hold of him too, right beside Tanner Jeannot.
Oh, did you see at the end of the period, Tavares took him aside and he shook his head, and he told him at the end of the game, he says, be careful. Be careful out there.
You almost died.
Oh, well. Hey, look, the Leafs, this was a game where, in all honesty, I think if we're both being honest, if you don't like the Bruins and you're hoping the Leafs can finish last, this was a lose-lose or a win-win situation. The lose-lose was the Leafs lose the game and the Bruins get into the playoffs. The win-win was took 2 points from the Bruins and won the game to sort of get even with them for all the history. Unfortunately, this is where the Leafs are right now. They can keep getting up for games, but there are some games they're going to end up giving giving more just because of history. Teams that you play over the years, that kind of stuff. And the Bruins they're one of these teams. They're one of the teams that the Leafs, feel a very special challenge against. I have to tell you, Aaron, that game, the way the Leafs played, they actually looked interested. I gotta say, they looked interested.
No, they certainly did. I was actually some of the most engaging Maple Leafs hockey that I've seen.
When was the last time they outshot an opponent?
Gonna have to go back at least 17 games before you can actually see something like that. The good news is that they're playing on a back-to-back with travel, but they're playing against the New York Rangers. So there's that to hold in mind.
They got to lose in regulation. I got to
tell you, man, a tie here isn't going to cut it. And winning in overtime is not going to work.
Losing in regs. Got to be losing in regulation. And the coach isn't cooperating.
No, that's the unfortunate part.
Yeah, somebody should say something in his ear. But the truth is, the last time in 2015 when the Leafs were in the position of, aim to fail, was when Babcock was the head coach. But he was all in because he was starting, an 8-year contract or something like that. So he knew he was going to be around the next year. And so he wanted to go down as low as he could to get the best player possible. And the Leafs did in Austin Matthews. He was the guy that everybody thought was a generational player. I don't think he's panned out into what everybody hoped he would be, but he has panned out to being a very good player. And speaking of very good players, Mitch Marner, a lot of people are talking about, how sad it is that the Leafs, don't have Marner anymore and how the Leafs have suffered without him. Hey, listen, as much as the Leafs have suffered without him, Vegas has suffered with them.
Yeah, as much as Ottawa fans can chant, you need Marner, the fact of the matter is he's not really helping Vegas a whole heck of a lot right now.
He's the 5th highest paid player in the league, and he is 14th in assists, and he's not a goal scorer by any stretch. He's not in the top 20 or 25 in goal scoring. So,
what he's been getting paid.
Yeah, Aaron, this has been my, I'm going to sound like I'm droning, but the point is that's what it's all about. You got to get value when you sign a player on. You got to get what he's worth. I'll give you, oh my goodness, Pasternak, an example. Pasternak. He earned less than the core 4, right? But he has had great playoff series. Right now, he leads the team in goal scoring. He's a leader on the Boston Bruins. One of the reasons why this team's playing much better now. I know there's other reasons. Don't get me wrong. But, Pasternak gets paid less than the core 4. And he has delivered more. And that's essentially what the Leafs need to do. And it just seems to me, I drew a conclusion, and I think it's time for Treliving to go. This game highlights the reason why I think he has to go. It isn't so much the first-round draft pick that went to the Bruins and a young player in Minton that went to the Bruins for Carlo at the playoffs last year. It's that my beef is that Treliving, and partly to blame as well, is the head coach, did not realize how good a player Minton was. And that's the part that if Treliving couldn't see how good Minton was, and this is a guy that's under his nose, then I don't have faith in him as the GM of the Leafs and or making trades this summer. He has not shown us anything that has had long-term benefit to the Maple Leafs. At least I don't think so. Now, there's a few trades that he made over the summer. Injuries got in the way, right? I understand that. But at the end of the day, I haven't seen much success from Treliving. I'm not happy with the coaching. Constantly, line changes are just pathetic on this Leaf team. And line changes should be the easiest thing for a team to pay attention to and do correctly. I mean, that's like that. The only thing worse than that would be if the players couldn't tie their shoelaces when they their skates when they come out.
No, it really does make you question his leadership and his not necessarily his leadership, but his decision-making abilities and the metrics that he's using for this sort of thing. So I maybe Brad can redeem himself during the summer. You never know.
Well, there's talk there, where there's smoke, there's fire. And there's some talk that Armstrong's looking like the candidate to take over, for Treliving. He's leaving an ex-Leaf that he brought with him to St. Louis that he traded for from Toronto. Alex Steen is rumored to be the next GM in St. Louis. Now, I don't know if he could convince Steen and himself to come to Toronto, but the Leafs do need a change. I think, I give coaches, general managers, ownership 2-3 years to establish what they are. And MLSC has established what they are over the years. Their only saving grace they'll have is if they find a general manager who in a year or two or a couple of years shows progress. We saw that in Montreal. We saw that in Buffalo, even though it sort of spiked. I just, in my opinion, that's the way it is. Winners win, losers lose. And they don't switch very often.
No, Leopard can't change his spots.
Absolutely. Aaron, it was a slice. Thank you for being here, and we'll get back at this Friday. You'll be able to make it Friday?
Yep, I will be here on Friday.
Okay. I got to talk to you about that because I'm not sure I can do Friday. We've got a junior hockey game, and I'm collecting 50-50 tickets. We're trying to
you're doing 50-50. Okay.
Yeah, we're collecting money for the food bank. We'll talk further about this. Thanks everybody for watching. He's Aaron William Freeland. I'm Candid Frank Stanishi. We'll see you again next time.